welcome everyone to 284 News. My name is Javon Wilson.
I'm Kamal Haynes.
And I'm Ron Grant.
And we are so thrilled and happy to be coming to you live out of the beautiful British Virgin Islands. The content continues via our website, 284media.com.
Well, in today's news, Speaker Willock distances himself from footing $77,000 legal bill. Attorney argues it is the responsibility of the BVI government.
We also see Premier Fahie telling the Commission of Inquiry just today that board vacancies were not advertised because it is culturally acceptable to vet internally.
And government legislator calls for a Ministry of Sport and says politicians both past and present have all failed sports in the BVI.
We also look at WINBVI launching their 8-week empowerment program for single and first-time mothers, and a fully vaccinated patient dies in the USVI. This is from COVID-19. We have all the details for these stories and so much more on today's edition of 284 News.
You value traditions. You value music. You value education. Family.
I love you.
Service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
Viewers, a pleasant good evening to one and all. It is a terrific Tuesday here in the Virgin Islands, Tuesday, September 10th, 2021. I think I may have gotten that date incorrectly. September 14th, yeah?
Yes,
September 14th. It's been a long day. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I'm Kamal Haynes, coming to you live from the beautiful British Virgin Islands. Well, viewers, we start with news of a recent ruling where, after choosing to discontinue his court case to have an injunction filed against the 3 attorneys of the Commission of Inquiry, Speaker of the House of Assembly Julian Willock has now disclosed that he is not accepting any responsibility of the nearly $77,000 in legal fees. Well, this is according to information revealed in a recent published judgment, which was handed down with the Eastern Supreme High Court by Justice Adrian Jack. Well, in mid-August, Speaker Willock filed an injunction to have the COI's 3 attorneys, Andrew King, Bilal Warat, and Rhea Harrison, discontinue from participating in the ongoing Commission of Inquiry until a ruling was handed down in October on whether they were legally practicing in the BVI. But following an August 27th judgment by Justice Jack, which stated that Speaker of the House Julian Willock would need permission of the Attorney General to move forward with the case, he subsequently withdrew the injunction. Well, he subsequently withdrew the injunction on September 1st after a request was made to the AG to no avail. Well, according to Justice Jack, the defendants, which included the 3 attorneys and the Commissioner of Inquiry, Sir Gary Hickenbottom, were already finalizing and filing their skeleton arguments in the opposition to the injunction application when the notice of discontinuance was filed by Speaker Willock's legal team. Well, the commercial court judge therefore decided that all parties involved in the case to serve a schedule of costs to be paid, with the COI's team claimed a sum of $71,388.59, while the Attorney General issued a claim of $6,084. But the judge also warned that these figures were subject to increase after the September 2nd hearing. Well, viewers, the Speaker's legal team, Silk Legal, which was represented by attorney Daniel Davies, argued that the court should make no order for cost on 2 grounds. Well, the first ground, that is, the action brought by Willock was not an ordinary private law action and was indeed an administrative action in the capacity of Speaker of the House of Assembly, which he argued was acting in the public interest. While his second ground was that the BVI government was paying Willock's legal fee and would be responsible for the liability for the legal costs of other parties. Well, in response, Justice Jack argued that there were a number of difficulties with the submission from Attorney Davies. Most notably, he said that even if he was to consider the grounds of public interest, that option was voided the moment Willock decided to serve a notice of discontinuance, therefore abandoning his pursuit of the public interest. Well, viewers, Justice Jack also said if Willock had fought and lost the case, then he would have made the argument that he was acting in the public interest. Instead, the judge said Willock acted unreasonably in the abandoning of the action at the first indication that there may be procedural difficulties. Well, he said this caused very substantial costs to be incurred by the defendants to no public benefit whatsoever. Well, as it relates to Attorney Davies' second ground that the BVI government was responsible for the payment of the bill, Principal Crown Counsel Fiona Forbes Vanterpool, who appeared on behalf of the Attorney General, disputed that there was any such agreement between the Speaker and the government. While she said that any agreement up to $100,000 would require the authorization of the accounting officer for the House of Assembly, who was the clerk in the House of Assembly. But she added that any agreement over $100,000 requires the authorization of the Financial Secretary. While she said that the Attorney General's investigations revealed that no such authorizations had been given in this case. Well, Justice Jack consequently instructed Speaker Willock to file an affidavit explaining the funding arrangements for the action. But Willock responded by stating, "I make this affidavit to state whether the funding of the action is private or governmental in relation to this matter. I hereby confirm that I instructed the lawyers at Silk Legal BVI Inc. to pursue this administrative law action on the understanding that the government of the Virgin Islands is covering the cost or fees of the matter. I have not paid for the lawyers of Silk Legal BVI Inc. It is not my responsibility," end quote. Or following the many ambiguities, Justice Jack ordered Willock and members of his legal team, Silk Legal, to submit additional information following specific guidelines via an affidavit by 4 p.m. today, September 14. Well, following this submission, Justice Jack said once all the information has been reviewed, he will make his final ruling on the subject of cost. Well, Javon, here again, we see yet another situation where the Speaker of the House of Assembly is in the spotlight again, this time in terms of distancing himself from all responsibilities of the bill in terms of the matter he would have brought before the Supreme High Court.
And it's quite a tricky situation because, like you said, the Speaker has been in hot water following the launch of the COI. And Kamal, there's always two sides to the coin. While the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Honorable Julian Willock, did not follow due diligence in consulting with the Attorney General as he should have, you have to also consider the fact that the case he's pursuing is on the very premise that the COI's lawyers were operating illegally in the territory and not in accordance with the BVI's bar laws. And that says that you have to be admitted to the bar. So, as we continue to zero in on this story, it's important that we look at both sides of the coin. But clearly, Honorable Willock has not followed due diligence. On top of that, he has abandoned the case. And Kamal, that is coming at a very high expense, and that is at the pockets and the taxes, the monies from public coffers, that is, the taxpayer dollars are going up in flames because we cannot get this process right.
Well, the thing about this, this is separate from the actual case that is set to be ruled in October, because was just the injunction filed to have them to basically prohibit them from practicing until the decision was made, which ultimately has nothing to do with the final overall case. But in terms of the injunction, it shows that even the procedures used, I believe that his attorneys should have advised him accordingly to be able to know, like, okay, well, if we discontinue at this stage, early stage, what are the implications and what will it cost in terms of such? And obviously to discontinue, whereas according to the information we received, where the other team, the COI team, was already preparing a defense, they obviously would have had to take time from the COI investigations to deal with this legal matter. So now that it's discontinued, I'm assuming that the judge in this case basically would have considered all the factors before coming to the conclusion of cost.
Well, it will be interesting to see what happens next in this case. Viewers, as we move on, earlier today, Minister of Finance and Premier of the Virgin Islands, Honorable Andrew Fahie, was cross-examined by the Commission of Inquiry on the premise of how government goes about appointing members to statutory boards. Now, viewers, this is a core area being looked at by the COI based on allegations of cronyism, which suggests the appointment of friends and associates to positions of authority without proper regard to their qualifications. Now, Premier Fahie argued that the culture of this jurisdiction, or any jurisdiction that is, has to be factored in when creating governing laws as a result of past precedents. And as a result of past precedents, the vacancies were not advertised because that is the cultural norm here in the Virgin Islands. He said while the selection was done informally, it shouldn't take away from the integrity of the process since potential members were vetted internally before getting officially appointment.
The impetus that we must have inside of the Commission of Inquiry to be considered is the culture of the Virgin Islands, of it, how it was being dealt with over the years, and how did it get to the informal state, because that's where it started. The BVI started with the Legislative Council 71 years ago. There was only about 5,000-6,000 people. Everyone knew each other. And over time, persons basically know each other in the BVI. Commissioner, if you stay here long enough, they will know where you have lunch. So they'll know where you go to church. You'll know each other. So that's the culture of it. So with it now, the informal process was still one yet of which it wasn't that you didn't know these persons at all.
Now, viewers, Premier Fahie also spoke to the fact that government recognized the need for more inclusivity and has since taken on the position to publicize vacancies.
So we recognize now that although what got us here has merit in our eyes and needed some adjustment in our eyes also, we have moved towards that stage and prompted ourselves to move towards what has just been described, and with advertising now for boards. So, Commissioner, you'll have to excuse me that when I receive a question from the Commission, why wasn't the post advertised? That's a legitimate question coming from your lens out of the UK or a bigger country. For us, most of that was not part of even most of the acts. And I guess we'll get into it later on, because I do agree that adverts are good. But we also have to look and see if that is the best way to get the best candidates, with some other ways that we can have.
Viewers, Premier Fahie explained that while advertising will allow for a more transparent process, it shouldn't be the only determining factor, as other important elements should be considered. Commissioner Gary Hickenbottom agreed on that particular note, but argued that such vacancies must be advertised to rule out allegations of favoritism.
It might not be the only way, because there are a number of ways to have good governance. I certainly accept that. But the evidence to date, and your evidence, is that the procedures, the informal procedure, as it's been called, was an internal procedure. And so nominations were identified internally by the minister, by the permanent secretary, by the desk officer, anybody else who happened to feed a potential candidate in.
Right.
But it was an entirely internal procedure. And this isn't entirely to do with numbers, although I see that that's a compounding factor. But even if you knew everybody in the territory, there may be somebody in the territory who would be willing and able to serve on a particular board, that has the right qualifications and experience, but he is not identified by this internal mechanism. He can only be identified by some mechanism which has an external element. And we'll come on to the new process, the more formal process, in a while. But that must be right, mustn't it, as a proposition? Even if you knew everybody, which, as you say, you may not know because there are so many people here, but to maximise the possibility of getting the best people on boards,
Kamal, I don't think it comes as a surprise that the COI is indeed looking into the appointments at statutory boards across this territory. What we've seen from predecessor and I think successive governments in general, whether VIP, NDP, or the works, is the unapologetic hiring and firing of board members across the territory. And it literally depends on which party is in. So I'm glad that we're at a juncture in this territory where that is being examined and where a criteria and a structure can be agreed upon that will allow for a more transparent process.
Well, indeed. Well, viewers, still ahead, government legislator calls for a Ministry of Sport and says politicians both past and present have all failed sports in the BVI, and single mothers across the territory are now set to benefit from an 8-week program launched by WINBVI. We get to these stories when 284 News returns. Welcome back, viewers. Well, Deputy Speaker Neville Smith believes that a Ministry of Sport is needed in the British Virgin Islands to better facilitate the development of local athletes at the international level. Well, Smith made the comments during a recent session in the House of Assembly just 1 week after it was published by our news team that the government did not have plans to implement a standalone Ministry of Sport in the immediate future. While he said he understood the various deficiencies missing from sports in the BVI, and said he believes a ministry designated for sport would help to resolve a number of these issues.
You know, I came to this house and I said more than one time that we need a Ministry of Sports, and I'm going to still say it. Because until sports get the resources they need, it's not going to go nowhere, Mr. Speaker. It's not. And I'm not taking away nothing from any of the leaders who have been sports ministers and what's not, but I'm saying it's just enough. It's not. You know what it takes as a young child, and this is something that we're doing wrong again. A young child trying to become an elite athlete, trying hard. And because now, let's say for instance, we come when we celebrate McMaster and Malone, we actually leave out those young athletes. We leave them out. Trust me, we leave them out because when we set a celebration, we don't bring them on board. So what is that inspire those children when we leave them out? You see, we're doing this thing, we're doing it backward.
Well, Smith, who himself is a former national softball player, said that politicians both present and past have all failed sports in the territory dated back decades ago.
We people in the BVI have failed when it comes to sports. We as politicians have failed the people when it comes to sports. Some people might not agree with me, Mr. Speaker, but this time I'm not speaking as a politician, but I'm speaking as a sports person. One who has been in the trench, Mr. Speaker, and one who have not seen enough done for sports, Mr. Speaker. We talk about it, but we don't do it. You know, we come here every time, oh, we're doing this for sports, we're doing this. Mr. Speaker, it's a joke. It's a joke, Mr. Speaker, and we have to stop it. And like I said, this ain't just this government, this is the whole, all government that I know. And I ain't taking it back. Every government that I know come here talking about sports, they're going to do this for sports, they're going to do that for sports. And every time an athlete gets somewhere, that's when we talk what we're going to do for sports. It's wrong, Mr. Speaker.
Well, the territorial at-large representative said that it is time that the government help to formulate a solid strategic plan for sports in the territory. Well, he believes this is the best method to help with the future development of sports in the BVI.
We have to come up with a serious plan for sports. I'm asking this question here today, where do we want to see sports? Really and truly, where we want to see sports? We come here talk, but we want to see sports, we going to do this. Yeah, you could dump 2 cents into sports. Tell that about 2 cents into sports. There ain't no money. But it ain't just the money. It's the planning, Mr. Speaker. Every government coming here, you change the way we're going to do for sports. We have to have an extensive plan that winter is there. It's there. No government can come and change it. Now I know my honorable member has been working on some stuff, but it ain't coming quick enough. Mr. Speaker, it ain't coming quick enough. My member might get up and say, we just dumped 20,000 here, 30,000 here. I don't want to hear that. God damn, we're going to build sports in this place here. All of the different associations need to get together.
Well, Smith also touched on the practice of marching in the BVI for various social issues. I believe that the issue of sport in the territory is one that merits a similar outcome. Well, he highlighted some of the many difficulties experienced by local athletes who are constantly at a disadvantage when compared to the resources and treatments available to other international athletes.
Mr. Speaker, you know what's so funny and why I don't understand? Everybody wants to match. Why you don't match for this? Why you don't match for sports? We all want to match for the wrong thing. We got athletes out there broken down. We don't know what they're doing to get to school. A lot of them we don't know. But when they reach on top, everybody happy. You know what it takes to get to that point? Ain't nothing small. Ain't nothing small, but if we plan and put things in place, if we had an identification program in place that we could identify our athletes and start training them from young, take a picture out of the book from Jamaica, from St. Kitts, all these places, we sitting on, they're passing us full speed and everything. BVI used to be on top of Salval. Jamaica is in front of BVI and Salval. Jamaica, who never nothing but Salval. What do you think is that?
A minister responsible for sport, Dr. Natalia Whitley, had stated during a recent post-Olympic Games media conference that the BVI government will not be instituting a standalone Ministry of Sport, at least not in the immediate future. While he said that the constitutional provisions would make such a move very difficult, coupled with the reality that there are presently other persons who are also seeking for individual ministries. Well, Javon, this is a very interesting story here. Obviously, the member of the Territorial at Large, Representative Honorable Smith, is very passionate about sports. And we constantly see it. Every time he gets on the platform, he tries to defend sports as he should. And I totally agree with a lot of what he would have said in terms of the BVI needs a designated Ministry of Sport to be able to focus on sport, to be able to allocate the necessary funds for sport to help propel it to the next level. And as he would have stated during his speech in the House of Assembly, we mostly see people in the territory celebrating athletes only after they have achieved something. And that should not be the case, because there are other athletes that look up to these athletes that also need help, that may not be able to elevate on that international level, obviously, to gain the recognition needed, obviously, to get the funds that they would need to be able to propel to the next level.
I fully agree with you, Kamal. I think Honorable Neville Sheep-Smith is making a valid point. We have neglected sports. When you looked at the past years and the trajectory of sports in this territory, we have to admit that a lot of priority was not placed on sport. But Kamal, we often emphasize on the tourism industry in the territory, not recognizing that sports tourism is a very strong aspect of the BVI's tourism product. We see our athletes continue to represent on the regional and the international scene and do so very well. And that in itself is promotion for this territory. Like you said, it's not just about celebrating the wins, it's about what we're putting in to prepare our athletes for that very big representation. And also, yes, the minister mentioned the fact that we might not get into that immediately, but these are things we want to start considering, especially since the minister at this point is carrying such an extensive portfolio. Why not have some of that responsibility? And I'm just throwing throwing this out there as a suggestion, but Honorable Sheep Smith has served as a great sportsman and could very well handle a portfolio of junior minister of sports. So it's really about understanding the needs in the territory and reprioritizing to meet those needs. Viewers, we're going to go to a very quick commercial break, but when we come back, WINBVI is now set to launch an 8-week empowerment program. This is such an incredible program for single mothers, for first-time mothers. It started tonight at 6 p.m. It's actually going on as we speak, but we want to get into the details of that story right after the break.
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 News. Now, single and first-time mothers across the British Virgin Islands are now being able to benefit from an 8-week empowerment program that was launched at 6 p.m. just a few minutes ago by Women in Need. That is a non-profit organization. Now, viewers, the director of WINBVI, Alicia Green, said upon completion, mothers will be able to conquer mountains and crush mental currents of destructive cycles and behaviors. Director Green said, and I quote, "We have designed a program to provide the tools to help you maintain good health and to nurture your mind, body, and soul." She also said the goal is for mothers to be happy and healthy while championing parenting, end of quote. Now, viewers, the 8-week program will prioritize self-care, household care, child care, budgeting, physical fitness, nutritional fitness, and mental wellness. And of course, participants will be able to receive a certificate upon completion. The sessions will be hosted on Tuesdays from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. nightly at the Save the Seed Center. And of course, provisions are being made, are already in place, that is, for mothers who choose to bring along their children. Mrs. Green expounded on how times have changed, adding that women of her generation in the past had more support than what we are currently seeing. She said, and I quote, "We had a good support system. The family was there for us, neighbors, and the community, and that was key. A lot of mothers are now single or first-time mothers. They don't have a coach nor a support system in place to help them. Now we have a different culture where women need that outpost, and some of them are afraid to reach out. Some of them feel like they have to do it alone." This is why WINBVI is embarking on this program. We are creating a safe space for these women to come and say, "I need to know how to be my better self in order to take care of my kids and my extended responsibilities as a woman," end of quote. Now, viewers, the orientation for the Woman Empowerment Program began tonight at 6 p.m. at the Save the Seed Center, but persons are still encouraged to register by calling the number 440-4122 or by emailing winbvi@gmail.com. Now, for those of you who may not know, Women in Need, also known as WINBVI, offers programs of recovery and refinery to women through classes of empowerment. The nonprofit organization has also been able to assist women who were evicted from their homes with children, struggling to buy groceries, and of course, dealing with the trauma of abusive relationships. A story that is very much synonymous to many women here in the Virgin Islands. Kamal, I really do applaud the work that WINBVI continues to do in this community. Yes, we are home to quite a number of nonprofit organizations, but this organization in particular has a special focus in exactly what it's called, Women in Need, vulnerable women in the community who continue to find themselves in a situation where they need to reach out for assistance in every capacity. What I love about WINBVI is how they prepare them mentally, how much emphasis they put on empowering self, so that women, I think as women, once you're empowered, you are able to better empower a nation, and that of course has ripple effects throughout the globe. So I'm really happy to see this program launched here. It is well needed, and we do applaud WINBVI for what they're doing.
I totally agree with what you said, especially as Director Green would have said. These are different times. We see a lot more single mothers in the territory now, in the world in general now, and women becoming more powerful too at it too.
Yes.
And we also see obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic as obviously experienced, and there are obviously more challenges being faced by these single mothers who may need the assistance and may need the pointers and be able, obviously being able to execute their duties on a daily basis much more.
All right, viewers, that's all the time we have. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I'm Kamal Haynes. Thank you for joining us. Have a good Tuesday.